Greetings! Okay, so this is my intro song.
Let me walk upon the waters wherever you call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and then my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit leads me when my trust is without border. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you will call me. Take me deeper than my faith could ever wander. Let my feet will be.
Okay, I'm gonna know the song completely. Well, welcome back to my channel. I am Natasha. I'm a mental health professional, a PhD student, and a Sacred Woman practitioner. Welcome. So this month is Mental Awareness Month, and I really want to focus on the disorder called post-traumatic stress, but also complex post-traumatic stress syndrome, disorder. All two of them, because I firmly believe that it is my conviction that the underlying root issue of any mental illness is trauma. And what is a mental illness versus mental health? I discussed that in a previous video, so you can check that out. But we're going to focus on post-traumatic stress disorder today. And any questions, don't afraid to drop the questions in my thing below, I think. But just drop some questions. But I'm just going to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, what it is. I'm going to read from the book because, again, and just know that there's two books that govern the mental illness world. Well, the mental illness Bible, if you would call it, is the DSM-5, which is no more the American, I would say, disciplinary. We use it mostly in America, and we also have the ICD-10, and that's more an international version. And the ICD-10 have a lot of disorders, sometimes not in DSM, so it's good to know both. And so I'm going to be reading from the DSM. Where did something go? I'm going to read it from this book, DSM Made Easy for Clinical Guide and Diagnostics. Again, by James Morrison. And I do not diagnose mental illness. However, I do work with individuals that experience mental illness. And only a mental illness professional can diagnose you. So don't let nobody in your family or anybody tell you that you bipolar, blah, 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 you crazy. Unless you are a mental health professional, you can't do that. Thank you. Moving on. So, again, this is on post-traumatic stress disorder. And I just want to read it. I like this book because this book is very simple than a DSM. I have a DSM, but it's too much. So I'm just going to talk about some features of post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm just going to read. So something truly awful has happened. One patient has been gravely injured or perhaps sexually abused. Another has been closely involved in death or injury of someone else. A third has only learned that someone close experienced an accident or other violence, whereas emergency workers, police, firefighters, may be traumatized through repeated exposure. As a result, for many weeks or months, these patients, here are the symptoms, repeatedly relive their event, perhaps in nightmare or upsetting dreams, perhaps in intrusive mental images or dissociative flashbacks. Some people respond to reminders of the event with physiological sensations, racing heart, shortness of breath, or emotional distress. Take steps. Here's some other symptoms. Take step to avoid we can't pronounce the H, the R-O, but the HORROR. You know what I mean? Refusing to watch film, like film on the TV, Jamaican, films, or television, or to read accounts of the event, or pushing thoughts or memories out of consciousness. That's another symptom. Turn downbeat in their thinking with persistently negative mood. They express gloomy thoughts. I'm useless. The world's a mess. I can't believe anyone. They lose interest in important activities and feel detached from other people. Some experience amnesia for aspect of the trauma. Others become numb, feeling unable to love or experience joy. Yeah, it's real. Experience symptoms of hyperarousal, irritability, excessive vigilance, trouble concentrating, insomnia, or an intensified startle response. Here's some of the fine prints. It says here, duration, it can be 1 month or more. So how long before you know that you're experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder? Again, I'm not diagnosing anybody, but I'm just reading from the book. Again, check with your mental health professional or psychiatrist. But this is what I'm just reading from the book, just to give you an idea what it looks like, but also how long if there's something going on with me. It says here, duration, it says a month or more of distress or disability in your work life, your educational, social, or personal impairment. An impairment has to look like you can't do the things that you normally used to do before the event happened. So if you normally used to go to work, you probably can't go to work because you're so traumatized, or you can't even go to school, or even you isolate yourself from your family. You can't even interact with your family. Another thing is, it says here that this disorder is not the same as if you're on a substance, if you're using substance, if you have like a brain injury, like a physical brain injury. It's not the same as mood or anxiety disorders. So so it says normal reaction to stressful events. So we all experience stressful events, right? And when you experience something that's stressful, some people go back to, I would say, to normalcy. Not everybody get PTSD. Some people go back to normalcy after the stressful event. But some people, because we're all different people, and we internalize these events very differently. Some people do not go back to normal, and they relive the trauma and they avoid trauma. The biggest thing about trauma that people should know, or traumatic stress, is that when it come on to avoiding, numbing, those are the two biggest symptoms. You're avoiding anything that remind you of the trauma. If you're numbing away, you're overeating, if you're getting very hyper arousal, if anything comes, that heart palpitation, if something remind you of that trauma comes up anytime you see it, and that can be something visually, that can be like a white car, that can be like a gray car. I mean, I like so many things. I remember when I experienced something very traumatic last year, like I was afraid to go to the park again. That I used to love to go to run, because every time I go to the park, it will remind me of something traumatic that happened. So traumatic events, if left unresolved, can take on its own little mini movie in your brain. It's so real. And I guess the biggest thing for people should know about trauma is that, believe it or not, there's a study that says that 90% that's getting behavioral help, meaning in mental health therapy, have experienced some type of trauma. So, and it's so deep. And when these traumas are not being resolved, it's it's being carried on to the next generation, because trauma is actually passed on through our DNA, it's in our beliefs, and it's also how we behave. And it's so important to know that, because we want to leave a legacy. We are having kids out here in these streets, and our kids are, you wonder why your kids are the same version of you, because of you, because of me. And it's so important to know that we're the one to start changing these things by really Sankofa. How do you resolve these things? You got to go back to the root and fix it. And the biggest thing too, that when you go to a mental health professional, they're very quick to treat symptoms. And I'm a mental health professional. However, I'm big on diagnosing people with things. Well, I don't diagnose people, FYI. I don't. But I'm big on working with people on the real issue, which is 9 out of 10 times is unresolved trauma. And I would say a lot of people's treating symptoms. A lot of people's treating the depression, the anxiety. But do you know why this person is anxious? Something happened when they were 10 or 11 or 15 or even 21 that they never get over. And their body literally, because we're adaptation machines, our body literally conditioned to respond to the same stimulus. And anything that reminds you of that stressful event, that stimulus, you continue to react the same way, the same hypervigilant way, the same over heart palpitation, the same shorter breath, the same I gotta fight, flight, or run. And it's very important to know that. And I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that trauma, there's no medication for trauma. Nobody can give you a medication for trauma. Trauma is not healed by medication. What heals trauma, in my personal experience and with the clients that I've worked with, is relationships, safe relationships. Because some point in that person's life, the relationship was ruptured, was unhealthy. And when you're in a space where someone experienced trauma, it's a constantly rupturing and repairing, because something in their past is being re-triggered. And how do we heal? Is by healing through relationships, literally. And that's what a mental health professional should be doing with you, healing you by modeling healthy relationship, but also helping you to, I say number 2, helping you to learn to regulate yourself, because trauma put us in a very hyper-vigilant state. We're always looking for threat. Our brain is our most powerful tool we have, and it's meant to keep us safe. And what trauma does, make it very hypersensitive. The part of your brain called the amygdala, aka Amy, our 911 system, it's literally going around in your brain looking for threat. And anytime something, if you experience a traumatic event, anytime something on the outside looks like the trauma that you have ever experienced, it's going to go off like a 911, calling all your firefighters, or your fight and flight response to turn on, and you're in full trauma mode. So we become over adaptive to our environment. So the mental health professional job or goal is to get you desensitized to these external stimulus. Help you to learn how to regulate yourself, how to not get those false threats, to get so overreactive with false threats imagine threats in your environment. And I can speak very well about that, because I have a lot of imagined threats that really for a very long time rule my life. And I'm not saying by no means I've perfected the imagined threats. However, healing is a lifelong thing, and the more you become aware of how your brain operates and how it flows, is the more you can manage it. Because trauma happens to us all. I think they say that over 60% of people experience some type of traumatic event, and trauma looks very different for everyone. But it's very important to know how trauma looks, how it shows up, and how you can intercept it. Because when something traumatic happens, your rational part of your brain goes offline. It goes offline. So you're in full trauma emotional mode, and you're ready to attack, when sometimes the attack is not even something warrant you to attack for. So what I can say in a nutshell, 2 things you should know about trauma, about how to heal trauma. I would say how to heal trauma. Just 2 things. I don't want to keep it long. There's 2 things. And the 2 things is, 1, trauma is healed with safe and healthy relationships. Relationships are part of life. They're going to happen. However, modeling safe relationships, that's one way trauma is going to heal. Number 2 is regulating self-regulation. And however you do that, for me, self-regulation looks like exercising. For me, that looks like breathing. For me, that looks like listening to music. Things that make me calm. Get me to relax. So I don't have to be so looking on alert all the time. Like, nobody's coming. You're okay. You're safe. Affirmations help. So it's all about safe relationships. It's all about learning to regulate. There's more, but those are just 2 tips. And that's it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my channel. Thank you. Remember my website, holisticlp.com. And if you are looking for someone that understands trauma and looking for more healing support, my number is 973-910-8470. Thank you. Much love and light. And remember, one of my favorite quotes is forever, forever is family. So like branches on a tree, like the tree outside, we go in different directions, but at the root, we're all one. Much love and light. Take care. Peace and love.